I was always looking for that opportunity to avoid someone getting hit by a bus or going out sick and everybody saying, well, so-and-so knows the answer, but they're not answering their phone. Automation was just another layer of adding that redundancy and that resiliency into the business.
Automation is great, but it's also very powerful. If you're not testing it fully, it can have some adverse effects.
If they don't implement it in the right way, they can run into situations where they're getting in trouble with legal. And at the same time, you also don't want it to be something where somebody feels like they have to minimize their screen, like they're looking at a dirty website or something, because they're trying to use AI for their job. Like, they shouldn't need to do that.
Hello and welcome. My name is Colleen Frye, and I'm the Executive Editor of MSP Success. I'm excited to bring you another roundtable discussion on the issues and technologies that are key to growing your MSP businesses. Today's topic is the automation and AI imperative. We're going to hear how two MSP business owners are using automation and AI today, what benefits they're seeing, and what they're planning for the future. They're also going to be offering some tips and some takeaways that other MSPs watching this can use to move their own AI and automation journey forward. So I thank you for joining us today. And before we dive in, I would like to have our panelists introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their companies. So I'm going to start with Stuart. Bryan. Stuart, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. Hi. My name's Stuart Bryan. I am the founder of a company called I Am Technology. Started back in 2003. And my background was actually that of corporate IT. I worked for a large IT provider that did IT for a Fortune 100 company. And so I backed my way into serving small and medium-sized businesses and nonprofits. But before that, I was involved with working in a factory years ago. And so the factory work that I did honestly informed a lot of how I think about the services and the things that we do as IT providers. And so, and also being from a big IT company when I was just starting out, helped me see how the big companies, they actually manage their IT services and the partnerships between their IT support people and leadership.
Makes sense. And Stuart, where are you located?
I'm located in the great state of Connecticut.
Excellent. All right. And my other guest is Shane Naugher. Shane, please tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Yeah. So Shane Naugher, I'm the owner and founder of DASI IT Services. We're located in the Southwest Missouri market. We've got offices in Springfield, Branson, and Kansas City. And I started this company back in mid-2000. Started out as a value-added reseller, like I'm sure a lot of the MSPs did in those early days, and primarily focused on Cisco network infrastructure, security solutions. And then, we were a contractor for Southwestern Bell back before they merged with AT&T. And all that was a great business to be in up until, 2008, 2009, when everyone went through that nice economy reset, and everyone had to refocus on what they were offering. So we got into the MSP space after that, and been doing that ever since. So
great. Well, thank you for being with us today. So I'd like to start kind of broadly and ask both of you to tell me a little bit about, where you are in your journey to adopting AI and automation. If you have an actual roadmap or a strategic plan, and what some of your goals are, and what some of the benefits you hope to achieve. So, Shane, you want to start?
Sure. So I've always been a huge proponent of automation. My background, I started out in SEO Unix, for those that remember those days. Everything that we did when it comes to automation was based on cron scripts, back in the early days. But the challenge with those was they were pretty dumb. You set things on a schedule, you had it run specific processes, and there was really not a whole lot of intelligence to it. It either ran or it failed. But that's kind of where I started automation. That was, you know, back in the late 90s, I was working in a corporate job. So I've always had that kind of mindset of how do we automate, as you move forward. I remember the first time I sat through a demo with LabTech as an RMM solution, and seeing the capabilities around automation with it was just really exciting. And, in the last couple of years, there's been a refocus from my part on it. Just seeing how AI has layered on top of the automation, I think is fueling a lot of the interest. And so we started out in 2023 looking at, well, I guess even further back from that, in 2022, we were trying to hire for a marketing admin position, and just really, we all struggled after COVID finding the right candidates and enough candidates. And so after about 6 months of searching for a candidate, we started looking at how do we automate some of the tasks that we're looking to do at this position. And that just kind of led us down the path of, what platforms are out there. So in 2023, we made a really enhanced focus around that, started digging into the AI capabilities. And early in 2024, we really formalized an initiative, company-wide, not just around a specific, but our entire MSP had a mindset and a cultural focus to look at how do we implement this and bring it to internal operations, client-facing options and opportunities.
Mm-hmm. You're breaking up a little bit, Shane, just FYI.
Okay.
Stuart, let me throw it over to you and ask you that same question. Where are you in your journey? Do you have a roadmap or, certain goals in mind on this journey and benefits you may have already reaped?
So absolutely. And I do apologize. I kid you not, somebody has started doing construction in the next building to me. I kid you, like 3 minutes ago. And so if you do hear that, I do apologize. I have the settings set to ignore it, but just in case, I wanted to bring it up. So we have, as a company, been leveraging automation for honestly over a decade. But the automation that we leveraged was largely workflows, what's known as RPA. And so, in my personal life, I started experimenting with if then that, right? IFTTT. And we leveraged just general automation settings inside of LabTech, which then became Automate. It was really quite a powerful platform that we ran for about 14 years. And the ability to do the automation was something that I was always looking for. Like I said, my background before I got into IT was actually manufacturing. And so I saw the advantages of just, what automation was able to do in factories. And then the thing I was always trying to avoid was, and I'm going to date myself here by saying it, but when Spacely Sprockets shut down because George Jetson's finger was bruised and he couldn't push the button to drop out the sprockets, that's always stuck with me, is that single point of failure, that linchpin redundancy was required, that you couldn't have a George Jetson who would fail the entire thing. And so I was always looking for that opportunity to avoid, someone getting hit by a bus or going out sick and everybody saying, well, so-and-so knows the answer, but they're not answering their phone. And so for me, automation was just another layer of adding that redundancy and that resiliency into the business. And if we could do things that would allow people to do meaningful work instead of just repetitive kind of piecework, like I saw in some of the factories that I worked in after high school, it was something where these were mindless jobs where you just kept doing the same thing again and again and again. And to me, in my business, there were certain tasks that were kind of mindless. And so if we could eliminate some of those tasks initially with automation, it made the most sense. And then I started messing around with AI last year, specifically in marketing. That was where we tried it out first. And so kind of similar thing to what Shane said, which is that we had a marketing manager working for us. We parted ways. And then my question was, do we really need a person full-time in this role or even fractionally in this role? Or can we just take some of these tasks and do what we do for automation? Can we bring the automation into the marketing side of the house? And it turned out we could. And so we just have been layering on more and more of that. But I felt it was safer to experiment on the biz dev side than it was to add AI to what we were already doing for automation on the service side of things. And so it's proven to be a good thing. And now it is on service and on the marketing, actually even finance side.
Okay, great. And we got George Jetson in as a reference, so my day is made, Stuart.
That's it.
My day is made.
That's it. We should all have a robot named Rosie.
There we go. So let's drill down into some specifics because our listeners want to know exactly like what you're doing. So let's start with your operations, service desk, ticket resolution, service delivery. Shane, can you give me an example of something you've automated or added AI to, and what the results have been?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of going back to what Stuart was saying with the marketing side of things, we took that same mindset. Start with tasks that you can test this with. So I'm sure we, like many MSPs, will track when a prospective client has a contract renewal coming up, and the process was we want to be able to send them a postcard, make sure that it gets out to them in enough time so that before they get to that renewal, we can have an opportunity to get in front of them, queue up a call for a sales rep to follow up. And so we leveraged our CRM to build that workflow, layered in some third-party tools to actually print and send the postcard that sent data back to the CRM that said, hey, it's been delivered, and they viewed that unique landing page. From there, it queued up, calls for our sales reps to follow up on. That's kind of where we started. And then, you look at towards the operation side of the house, with most of the PSA tools on the market today, there's some level of AI functionality coming to those. So, the obvious stuff like ticket summarizations and, notes, I think that's kind of the low-hanging fruit that you can tackle. Really where we started looking at AI and particularly automation as a different mindset was when we started looking at the different tools we were using. And it started with warranty.
I'm sorry, with what?
With
You're breaking up a little bit.
Sorry about that. Warranty lookup.
Yep.
So one of the tools we were using had a pretty significant price increase, and that's an easy target for us to say, can we automate this? And by leveraging an RPA platform and open APIs, we eliminated that tool as a starting point just by leveraging the automation, the AI capabilities, and the open APIs. We now built that into our process for our quarterly meetings with our clients, that we pull that information in automatically. It's already presented to them. We extended that to the dark web reports that we leverage, eliminated another tool. And so now we look at every department and what tools are there, what is the outcome we're looking for, and how do we leverage AI and automation to, if not eliminate tools, greatly simplify and make it easier for our team to deliver those.
Mm-hmm. So let me go back into your first example, and we're not endorsing any tools or any vendors, but just for our listeners, give us a kind of a list of how you automated that customer process of.
Yeah. So when it comes to the contract renewals, first step, data is the basis for all of it. Got to have good data. So making sure that our sales reps capture those contract expiration dates is critical, and it gets recorded into the specific field in the CRM. And the CRM really doesn't matter because we've actually moved to a different CRM since then. And the idea is just making sure you have a dedicated field for that. Then leveraging tools that connect different applications. So Zapier, most people are probably going to be familiar with it, or Make. Those platforms allow you to connect to different applications through a pre-built API. But if they don't have that, you can leverage the open API interface directly And then we looked at tools like Postalytics, which is an external postcard mailing service, and then brought that into the mix. And then through the workflows inside of the CRM, you take all of that data and kind of mash it together to say, here's what the overall process that we want out of this.
Mm-hmm. And how long does something like that take to develop, if you will?
For a smart person, probably not a terrible amount of time. For me, it took me several weeks worth of fiddling with it, and then probably another couple of months of, okay, we ran into this error and we have to correct this and we need to change some of the variables. But, it depends on how much focus you can give it. It's like anything else. If you enjoy this work, which I do, it's one of the things I've discovered over the last 2 years. It's really reinvigorated my interest in technology. It's something that I really have a passion around. And so the more time that you can give to it to learn the technologies, the tools, and the processes, the faster that'll go, at least from my experience.
Mm-hmm. Stuart, drill down into an example of something you're doing and, how you did it, how long it took, et cetera.
So as far as Zapier and things like that, those connection tools are something that we started playing around with a long time ago because of the fact that there was just not enough integrations, right? Like the first thing I look for when I look at a new tool is the integrations. I don't even go to pricing. I just look to see what does it integrate with. And Zapier, I think, is such a great Band-Aid for making things talk, right? And doing the things that you need. But at the same time, if the roadmap is lacking and they don't seem to have an interest in building integrations, then I think it is absolutely appropriate to back away slowly from that vendor, because the fact that integrations is where it's going to be at. Like that's it. That's what you're looking for. You need that ecosystem. So one of the things that we did that I think has proven to be probably most useful for us was basically taking, from a marketing standpoint, how do we create the content that we need to be able to address the major markets that we serve, right? And so assuming that this audience at least has heard of the marketing team, TMT, right? And well, if in the Producers Club, which I'm in, there's something called Prospect Hopper, and they generate blog posts every month that you can leverage. Plus, you can use your own blog posts, plus you can use whatever. But basically what we did is we built out personas for all the different industries that we serve. And then essentially we use a particular platform that allows us to build essentially nested prompts. And it allows us basically to use that to so I can stack prompts in an app and make it do a bunch of different things and then spit out what I'm looking for. And so you can do it through typing in and pasting and doing all the things, but this kind of allows me to have the structure of it built and make it easy. So essentially what I did was I made it so that we could take a blog post or an article that was written by somebody else, and then we could essentially connect it to the persona we wanted it to write for, automatically then feed in either the text or the link to the blog or article. It would then convert that into a rewritten blog post for that specific industry. It would then create social media posts related to that. It would then spit out image prompts to be able to be used. It would then make an email to actually send out through our marketing automation platform. And then I would then take it, and then basically it would generate a script, and I would take it and have it generate a script from the blog. And then I would take those things and just paste them into, right now, it does not allow for call outs to the other specific tools we use, but then I would take those pieces and I would drop them into the other components that we use. So for the images, we would use ideogram if it was going to contain any text, right? Because it does a better job with text. If not, you could use DALL-E. We would use InVideo for creating a video basically. So you'd actually, on the top of the blog post, there'd be a video, which essentially would just be the blog post. All right. And then we would then take that and basically it made it so that in about 7 minutes, start to finish, and that was mostly because of the cut and paste processing times, you'd be able to take any blog and have it completely customized and have a full marketing piece wrapped around it for that industry. And you could do it with the same blog post, for every industry we serve. And then that would drop in and be customized and unique to them. And we would take it and either put it on. Sometimes we use LinkedIn. Sometimes it just goes back to our own webpage. Depends what we're trying to do with it, but it's made it so that we can quickly customize even just an article about something that's happening now. You can take that and essentially this thing will rewrite it specific to the industry. So if you're trying to get out some sort of quick bulletin about a breach that just occurred or something else is going on, it's able to spit that out and make that work. And again, it's just made it a lot easier. The next phase will be the ability to actually link the different apps, and then I'll not just be able to do prompt stacking, but I'll be able to do app stacking and API callouts. So I'm anxiously awaiting for that. But I'm like Shane. This has made me interested in technology again as a consumer and somebody looking to as like a creative. I had not been that interested in technology from the creative side of things in a long time, and this has kind of made my brain light back up again regarding this. And I'll give you, for instance, something we just did Friday. I had a review with one of our team. He's really excited about AI. And basically what I did is I built a couple apps, and then I said, all right, we'll check this out. And what we did is we basically made this thing come up with a use case for three different, for a business problem, for a specific type of business. It was an accounting firm that does bookkeeping, and came up with three different AI apps or use cases that it could use, and then had it do the entire thing from NIST guidelines compliant implementation, also dealing with the regulations that they're under, and making sure that it was appropriate, and then had it build out the complete project timeline and implementation. And that took me 3 minutes.
And was that with ChatGPT?
Whoever speak, go ahead.
Sorry, was that with ChatGPT?
I used ChatGPT as the core component of it. Yep. I could have put it into a different language model, but I ran it through ChatGPT. But I actually used specific apps that were built leveraging ChatGPT as the kind of components. So essentially, I took the regulations that this business is under, downloaded that information, and then put it in. And then I also took the regulations for NIST, not regulations, but the AI guidelines for NIST for creating, for leveraging AI safely or in an environment. And then I took and had it build use cases to solve a specific business problem with AI tools, like how would you do this? And then I just basically had it build the project timeline to implement the three projects. And it essentially, I think it did it over. Actually, I'll just pull it up here. The whole timeline was 20 weeks, 5 phases. And that was, and it basically incorporated FTC safeguards, right, for finance. And then also the safeguards rule, as well as the NIST AI RMF guidelines. And so took care, wrote out the entire thing with compliance review and design, risk management, all the things. And it did basically 3 different use cases and then full timeline all the way down. Like I said, it was 20 weeks. And it did it in phases, in project weeks.
Shane, you had a question too from Stuart?
Not so much a question, but kind of a comment towards that. Stuart, what would you say that would have normally taken you without that process in place?
It would have taken me probably about a week and a half to do the 3 use case studies, with pulling in at least 2 to 3 other people. And then the phases and aligning to the different guidelines would have taken another, I think it would have probably taken me a month because of the fact that I'm not doing it full time to actually roll something like this out. And I kid you not, I just did it as a quick demo of the apps to one of our team members. And it was 3 minutes. Like it was 3 minutes start to finish because we were able to do everything inside of ChatGPT model that allowed me to do all of it. But again, it was different, specifically pre-built applications that I just threw things in and then just copied and pasted and just boom, 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 it was done. And yeah, it was basically,
Right.
and I told it that it was my company that was actually doing it. And so it was able to look and see kind of and I didn't give it any guidance as far as who we are as a company. It just looked at our website and what was consistent with our messaging and then used that as the jumping off point to build out the AI solutions.
Wow. So I want to turn to service desk. Shane, I know you and I talked a little bit beforehand that you have your team involved in sort of suggesting automations and such. Can you talk to me about some of the things you've done with service desk and how you get your staff involved in creating these automations?
Yeah, and that's where I go back to the culture aspect of this. We started out the year, and Stuart will probably attest to this. Anytime we go to a conference or go to one of these meetings and come back with ideas around technology, our team members typically, or at least my team members, kind of roll their eyes and think, oh my gosh, now what are we going to have to do now? And so when we started talking about AI and automation, it wasn't immediately adopted by our team. They were thinking, especially our reactive service desk, they're thinking this is going to be one more thing I have to support, one more thing I have to learn, and just another headache. And we tried to encourage that and doing the same thing that Stuart did. Examples, showing what the time savings was going to be, and how do you leverage this to free up your time, give you less frustrations in the day. And so slowly over the course of a few months, we got our team where they were looking at this as looking for opportunities. So we actually built into our PSA now where if there's anything that they're doing that they feel like could be automated, we've got a checkbox they can go in and check, and it flags it for our automation engineer to go in and review those on a weekly basis and say, can we automate this to help in the process? And then when they start seeing results from that, it encourages them, the next department, to start looking at it. And so over the course of the last year, really started trying to get all of our team members looking at it from how does this help me, as opposed to this is just one more thing I have to learn. And now our team, during the weekly meetings, I'm not having those discussions. They're driving well, hey, can we automate that? That sounds like a great use case for this tool or the tool. But getting their mind wrapped around the fact that it wasn't just another tool or another technology or something they had to learn that was going to add more work. It's just a matter of time and reframing them around the benefit.
Mm-hmm. Do you require that the process has to be documented before you even consider automating it? How do you sort of enforce that?
So that's part of the process in our weekly review of this. We have our team leads meeting on Friday, and we review the automation request. And the first step for you to be able to submit an automation request is you have to either upload or link the SOP or the process documentation so that someone can follow that in the automation process. Because we feel like without an existing or existing process, you really can't automate something that's not documented. So for us, documentation is our cornerstone. We always let's start with that. And then the other component is, don't try to automate something that sets you apart. If it's what is something that makes you unique in the industry or unique in your space, don't try to automate that necessarily. Look at what is that ROI going to be to you? What does it do in terms of impact for your clients? If you answer your phones live and your clients are used to hearing the same person and the same process, don't try to automate that because it may hurt you in the long run. But getting everyone thinking through that, making sure there's a process to follow, that's kind of where we start with our team.
Stuart, how about you? Can you add to what Shane said or talk about what you're doing with your service desk?
Yeah, so I think I think the thing that converted people the most was the fact that we have an app that was built that writes SOPs. And so you just type in what you're trying to do, and then it writes the SOP for that. So let's say you're doing something you've never done before. It will actually go out and you say, I'm trying to move from this product to that product. I'm trying to do this. It will basically write the SOP. And it's not that I wanted creating documentation for us. It's the fact that there are times when you get thrown a curveball and somebody's trying to move from this really bizarre and really small market share financial package to something else, and you have a client question, and like, how in the world would you do something like that? You can just throw the query at this. And so once I showed how it could do that, and then our team checked to see if it was accurate, that was really the thing that made the difference. And we have a weekly meeting where we talk about things that have gone bad or things that have gone well, and that previous week. And from the very beginning of that meeting creation, it was always a bad is something that it's not just a bad experience. It's something where basically you're trying to think about how could we avoid this happening in the future due to better process, communication, or procedure, right? Or education. What are the ways we can make it so this doesn't occur again? And so we've actually, the front end of that meeting is now basically AI use cases and wins that the team get to share. And so everybody in the entire team now uses AI in their job. And we also then ran them through training, including app building and learning how to actually set up prompts and do different things like that. And then basically said, how would you use it? What kind of things do you think might be useful for this? And so by having these repeated wins and these use cases being shared, and it's really changed us so that our team now, like quite literally between L1 and L2, it used to be a direct escalation point between those two, but now there's an additional step in there. They actually will throw in a query to our private AI chatbot to ask it for some additional information. So it's actually been put into the diagnostic process as just a way to help maybe give some knowledge gap, fill in some knowledge gaps for the team, so that they then don't have to escalate to the next level up.
How about in your on the automation side? Are you guys using features and capabilities within your PSA systems, or are you using RPA tools, or do you have someone who knows how to do scripting? Can you both kind of speak to that?
We have all three. So we use workflows, scripting, and also RPA. They can solve for the same problem, but they're not best suited for the exact same problems. Some things are better done with a workflow. Other things are better done with, an RPA, whether it's a make, a PIA, a roost. Other ones are better served with, just honestly writing a script. So yeah, so we do all of it in-house. Now we're using third-party vendors for RPA, but as far as scripting is concerned, we don't outsource that to some company. We don't do this. We don't do the same thing we don't do anything different for workflows. I wanted our team to understand how the tools they use work, because that way they can suggest a workflow that they think makes sense. But I think that for us, at least, we're using all three pieces to solve problems. And again, if it's going to show up once, who cares? If it shows up twice, okay, maybe we should pay attention. If it keeps showing up, okay, this doesn't need to keep happening. How do we get rid of this?
Mm-hmm. How about you, Shane?
Yeah, the same for us. And to that point, one of the things we look at is a lot of times the PSA may have an automation capability built in. That if you look at what it does and how it does, what the outcome of that is, we may decide, even though it's built into PSA, we may leverage Bruce to actually do that, because it gives us more options, it gives us a better output. So just like Stuart, it's a combination of the three. It depends on what gives us the best and most appropriate outcome in terms of the automation itself. And I love that idea, Stuart, on the AI wins of the week. I'm going to make a note of that, implement that with our team, because I think that is a really cool concept to make sure everyone knows what it's bringing on a weekly basis. So, but scripting, automation inside the PSA, and leveraging the tools, I think is just, we're all going to end up there at some point.
Mm-hmm. So you both seem pretty far along. How, other than, you've both played with it, but how are you educating your staff? What resources can you recommend that, the listeners may go to or try for training or for getting up to speed, with using AI and automation? Any suggestions for that?
So the platform we use has AI education built into it, 3 different certifications. Nothing that's too much of a heavy lift, but enough for exposure. And then the other thing is, if you want to go that route, IBM has a AI prompt writing course that's free. You can take that. There's another vendor out there, I can't remember the name of them, but they also have a free AI prompt writing course that you can take. So those are easy, free things. On the other side of it, it is likely the best teacher is experience. And what I have told our team is that the limit to what you can do is largely governed by your imagination and not by the tools that you're using. Because even if the thing that you are using can't do all the things, quite honestly, one of the best things you can do with an AI tool is ask it how I can use you better. How can I take better advantage of this tool that I'm using? And it will, like ask ChatGPT or Claude or these other ones, like, what are the best ways that I can use this in my job? I do the following, and it will tell you. And then it's so user friendly. It's staggering. I don't remember any other technology that's been this this different, that has actually had the bar of entry be so low.
Shane, what about you? And do you need an automation engineer to take advantage of some of these tools?
So, much like what Stuart described, most of the tools are going to have some type of university that will help train your team as you go through that specific tool. You obviously are going to have to dedicate the time and resources to do that. Another key component that we looked at this year, Roost hosted their first Flow conference. And I think that was instrumental for our team, simply because myself plus 2 of our other engineers went and were able to sit at a table with other people trying to do some of the same things, learn from them, network with them, understand how they leverage the technologies and the different tools that they use. The Flow conference, even though it was hosted by Roost, it was vendor agnostic. So there were lots of discussions around different tools and automation platforms and technologies as a whole. That kind of got my team looking at, what are the communities? So there's a Discord community around the tools. So if you get stuck with an automation, throw it out in Discord. Someone's going to give you some feedback. Most of the vendors have a Discord channel. So, from their support perspective, throw it out in Discord. They can help you along that path. But for us, one of the key things that we had to make the decision early on this year was, are we going to dedicate resources, meaning employees and engineers, and time for this? And we made the determination for what we want to accomplish that, we were going to throw people at it. We were going to throw time at it, not just for learning, but also implementing and testing. Automation is great, but it's also very powerful. If you're not testing it fully, it can have some adverse effects. And I think, it's kind of like when everyone started looking at, security operations center, SOC services. You had to make that decision. Are you going to build this in-house, or are you going to partner with someone? And same thing with automation. I think you either say, we're going to learn it in-house, or we're going to partner with someone that does, because it does take time and resources that, all those things cost money and attention. So you've got to make that determination internal.
Okay, great. Before we run out of time, I want to get to $1 million question here. So we've looked at what you guys are doing to improve operations internally and to gain more time for your staff and do more creative things. But let's look externally now. And I think the $1 million question is, can you monetize AI and automation? Can you help your customers with it? Can you spin out other things to add to your portfolio? So what are your thoughts on going forward, how MSPs can monetize all this?
I think if it's done correctly, one of the best values that an MSP brings to the table for a client is the ability to take sometimes complex technologies and make it so that it has a business use case that is presented to the client, and make it so that we can hold their hand in the implementation of this in an appropriate way, right? Whether it was VoIP, 10, 12 years ago, whether it was cloud, roughly around the same time frame, that's an advantage that the MSP has over just a simple break fix relationship, or one where you're a VAR and you're pushing products, and we were a VAR, and you hopefully have a trusted advisor, consultative relationship with your clients. And so, yes, you should have the ability to either point them in the right direction of a platform that maybe you have some sort of referral relationship with, or you're directly monetizing it by selling it yourself, or even just offering them the initial prompt guidance and helping their team get up to speed. But I do think that there's a way to do this in a way that adds a lot of value and keeps them safe, and also makes it so that they can take advantage of these tools. Because at the moment, we're in the land of the early adopter, and so people get excited about this, like clearly Shane and myself are, and we're diving in. Not every CEO, owner, executive director is dabbling like that, but they can be sure that their team members are. And if they don't get the message out correctly, if they don't implement it in the right way, they can lose they can lose IP. They can have things that are confidential but not necessarily intellectual property that get out. They can run into situations where they're getting in trouble with legal because of things that are being just shared publicly. And at the same time, you also don't want it to be something where somebody feels like they have to minimize their screen, like like they're looking at a dirty website or something because they're trying to use AI for their job. Like they shouldn't need to do that. There should be some sort of thing that can be done. And so I think if we can educate our business leaders that we're working with, it will absolutely increase their engagement with us, no matter how we decide to monetize it.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Shane? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I echo the same thing that Stuart's saying. In fact, we actually doubled down on that, or tripled down on it, depending on how you want to look at it. And it is absolutely something that I feel like, our clients look to us for technology guidance. They look for us to help them navigate how to use technology properly. And this is coming whether we help them or not. And it's our job to stay ahead of it for them. So we actually launched a second company just focused on AI and automation, because I believe that strongly that this is going to be something that every business uses. And I think the adoption is going to be faster than anything we've seen in technology that I can ever remember. The closest thing probably, and it's not even close, is during the .com boom, when everyone was looking to get online and get a website. This is going to happen. It's not even going to compare in terms of the adoption speed, I think, in this. But one of the critical components at this point is, as Stuart mentioned, business leaders today, they've heard AI. There's a lot of misconceptions about what it does and what it doesn't do. A lot of people think it's just a marketing term that really isn't something that they can leverage. We as business leaders in the technology space have to help them understand, how do you leverage this to get an outcome that drives revenue, that drives efficiency, that gives them an ROI on the time spent and the money spent on the platforms. because otherwise it's just a marketing term, and they're going to have employees starting to tinker with it and do just what Stuart was saying. You end up with IP out there. You end up with any type of compliance that you're subject to. There's potential fines that could be levied if it's used improperly. So I think it is something, as technology providers, we've got to lead the charge for our clients.
Do you both see this as maybe a recurring revenue opportunity or more sort of project-based work?
Both, I would say.
Yeah, it's both, because there's a component that Stuart and I both know, as we've gone through and built these automations, there's time involved in doing that, which is basically a project. But you've got the RPA platforms and the licensing that goes along with that, and the management and the upkeep of that. Those are just like any other technology that's going to, it's not something that you build, you walk away from. It's got to be maintained.
Great. And so just wrapping up here, it's been a great discussion. I'd like to ask you both to offer some advice for your fellow MSPs who may not be as far down the path as you folks are, in terms of, where should they get started and what mistake that maybe you've already made or anticipated ahead of time. What mistakes should they avoid? Shane, you want to start?
I go back to when, security operations centers were really kind of the decision point we all had to make. We all have to provide security. Our clients depend on it for us. We had to make the decision internally. We're going to try to build a SOC ourselves internally, or we're going to partner with someone. And I think that's the decision point that, most MSPs have got to make now. Are you going to dedicate the time, the resources, and the effort to build this, or are you going to find a partner? And you've got to make that decision soon, because I think it's going to happen quickly. If you're going to do it internally, you need to really understand the time investment and the tools investment and what it's going to take to build that, and commit to it. It's not something I think you can dabble. You either have to do it or you don't.
Yep. I would say, if I was looking to implement it today, I would look at my role chart, and anywhere I saw a fractional role, I would look to see how I could make that role more efficient by putting my AI use cases in place there first. Right? Like, that's what we did. We used that. We had a full-time marketing person, then a fractional marketing person, and then a heavily AI enhanced marketing time block. Like, that's really what it is. I think that's the safest place to play, is in those fractional roles, because you have somebody who's already splitting time in that anyway. And there are definitely opportunities where they talk to them, they know where they're failing, and they feel bad about it, right? And maybe it's you, maybe you're the CEO and you have a huge hat rack off camera, but if you have fractional things that you're doing, you're probably not doing them well in any one specific role, unless you could give it your full focus, and just look for opportunities where you could leverage that. And again, ask. Be descriptive. In certain things, being verbose and descriptive is not valued, right? TLDR. But in this particular case, it's the opposite of too long, don't read. It's the actual be precise, be specific, tell exactly what you want and how you would like the answers presented. And if you can do that, you can get great information back. And that will help you kind of ideate and iterate faster. And so that would be what I would suggest is go back and use the tools, and just, if you're playing around with free tools or tools that are maybe even paid tools, but tools where you do not have kind of that sanctity of data, where you know that your information is possibly being shared, you choose a tool that allows you to keep things to keep things private, or you have to generalize in a way that doesn't reveal information that you wouldn't want to be out there. And as far as mistakes, I would just say, on the mistake front, I would just say not implementing it sooner, fast enough, because I didn't understand the power initially of the wins. And so when we started sharing the wins, that was when we really started to gain traction. So I would say that was probably the biggest mistake is trying to make it so that I was trying to get it perfect before we really brought it wider, instead of trying to get more people involved and just showing the success and telling the ways we did the things.
Okay, before I let you go, also on the mistake front, I assume that when you create a workflow or something, it needs to be tested, and or when you ask AI for something, you need to vet it to make sure is that correct. Shane, can you and Stuart, can you both kind of speak to that, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah, and to Stuart's point that he made, I think identifying the right resource for this, because I almost think this is more of a DevOps type mindset. We've all got engineers in our organization that they're a network guy or they're a firewall guy. When it comes to this, I think it takes that's probably the biggest caution that I would say is make sure that if you're putting someone towards this task, they probably need to have that DevOps or software development type mindset, detail oriented, because to your point, well, two points with that. One, testing is critical. You want to make sure that you understand what it's doing or how it's doing it, and what's the error handling. But also making sure that as they build this, it's not something that they're going to have to go back and rebuild every time they reuse a component of it. It needs to be sub workflows that can be reused over and over, as opposed to a giant workflow that you really can't tinker with. So that's where it goes back to that DevOps type mindset as opposed to just a general engineer.
Yeah, I would agree with the chunk it into manageable bits that can be repurposed like building blocks, right? That's a huge thing. And then on the testing front, something that is useful to help minimize hallucinations is to give, if you're using a chatbot, give it source material and tell it to restrict itself to the source material. And that way it's going from known knowns when it's giving you your answers, as opposed to, just making stuff up. Because it really wants to answer you. It really does. And so don't disappoint it, but have it create stuff on the fly. Give it some source material or examples or something so that it's actually coming from a known starting point.
Great. Well, I thank you so much, both of you. It was a great discussion, and I know that our listeners will get a lot out of it. And before I sign off, I just want to remind everyone to please go to mspsuccess.com. On the daily, we have news stories about how to run your business, what's going on in the industry, expert webinars like this, and more. And so if you're not a subscriber, sign in to make sure you're not missing anything. And then we also have a MSP Success Facebook group exclusive to MSPs. And if you're not already part of that, check it out. You may want to join it. I thank you again, Colleen Frye with MSP Success Magazine. Thank you to Stuart, Bryan, and Shane Naugher.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.